We don't need to do that anyway.
Good evening. Calling to order this regular meeting of the Town of Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission. It is Monday, September 27th, 2021, 7:02 p.m. at the Turtle Lot Memorial High School Auditorium, 785 Riverside Drive, North Grove, New Dale, Connecticut. We will begin with a roll call of the commissioners. Randy Blackmer.
John Rice.
Brian Santos.
Dave Polkowski.
Alvin Hill.
Mike Rogel. And Joseph Perotti Brown. We will seat Alvin Hill for Robert Wirge, Dave Poplowski for Missy DeRogers, and Brian Santos for Charlene Langlois. Mr. Lenke regretted that he could not be here this evening. He's out of town, but he did ask me to read this letter on his behalf. To whom it may concern, on the Planning and Zoning Commission and Thompson residents, I, John B. Lenke, humbly want to apologize for my actions during a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on August 23rd, 2021. During a very emotional meeting when I was engaged in discussion with a fellow town resident, I allowed my temper to get the best of me and acted unprofessionally. I can understand and agree that my response was inappropriate and that it is by no means acceptable being a public figure to confront a fellow Town of Thompson resident in that manner. I address and acknowledge any levels of discomfort which were the result of my actions. I again deeply apologize and will promise moving forward this situation and my conduct will not happen again. Sincerely, John B. Lenke. Item 2 on the agenda, applications. Planning and Zoning Commission application 21-28, applicant Christina Thorne, property owner Cody McCall at 24 Border Trail, map 164, block 26E, lot 26E, zone RRD, requesting a permit with site plan review for an in-home family daycare, zoning regulation article 4A, section 2.6.
Have to turn this on.
No, it should be on, Cindy.
What?
It should be on.
It's just on, Cindy. Is Christina Thorne here in the audience?
Is Ms. Thorne here?
Okay, apparently she's not here to speak on the application, so it would be your decision. I don't think they're in a whole lot of hurry to get this because they're remodeling the place and they're waiting for their childcare license from the state of Connecticut. And since she is not here to speak on behalf of the application, for my responsibility, everything is in order. So it's up to you if you want to look at it or if you want to continue it to the next meeting. And I will inform her that it continue to the next meeting.
Thank you, Cindy.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Rice.
I would suggest that we table this till next month's meeting and have her in-house. And that I have a few questions and I don't think it's the CEO's responsibility to answer them.
Is that a motion, Mr. Rice?
Yes.
I'll second it. Mr. Rice moves, Mr. Blackmer seconds to table application 21-28 to next month's regular meeting. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hill?
in the basement, is the applicant here tonight?
The applicant, I do not believe is here.
Well, maybe Cindy can answer my question. Cindy, have you been in the basement and is that egress a set of stairs to get out or is that just a walkout basement door?
I cannot recall from when I went to a site visit. So that would be a question that I can ask her. I'll call and ask. But also, I'm sure that whoever is giving the license from the state of Connecticut, the department that gives the license, will be sure that she has an exit from where she is having the daycare location.
So thank you. Cindy said she didn't recall, that she will verify that and that she is sure that the state licensors will address that. and ensure that that is the case. The motion on the table is to table the application to next month's meeting, regular meeting on October 25th, 2021. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, it will be a yes to table, no to act on the application. Mr. Blackmer.
Randy Blackmore, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Brian Santos, yes. Dave Paplowski, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Mike Rogo, yes.
The application is tabled to our October regular meeting on October 25th. Application 21-31, applicant In Acquisition Associates, Andrew Silverson and property owner of 286 Thompson Hill Road, map 103, block 40, lot 2, zone, Thompson Common Village District, TTCV, requesting a public hearing for a two-lot re-subdivision, subdivision regulations, Article 111, Section 4A1.
Move we
Miss-
schedule,
Go ahead.
move we schedule a public hearing for our next meeting, October meeting,
October 25th.
October 25th. Thank you, Tom.
I'll second.
Mr. Blackmer moves, Mr. Santos seconds to accept the application for public hearing at our October 25th, 2021 regular meeting. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, it's a yes to schedule, no to take another action. Mr. Poplawski.
Dave Paplowski, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Mike Rogo, yes.
John, Randy.
Randy Blackmore, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. The public hearing is scheduled. Planning and Zoning Commission application 21-32, applicant and property owner Wojciech of 1574 Riverside Drive, map 55, block 65, lot 14, zone Thompson Corridor Development District, TCDD, requesting a public hearing for construction of commercial buildings, light manufacturing, zoning regulations, Article 4E, Section 2-24.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the application and set this for our October 25th meeting for a public hearing.
Mr. Wright moves the acceptance and scheduling of a public hearing for application 21-32.
I'll second that.
October 25th, meeting seconded by Mr. Poplawski. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, it's yes to accept and schedule the public hearing, no to take another action. Mr. Blackman.
Randy Blackmore, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Brian Santos, yes. Dave Paplowski, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Mike Rogo, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. The application is accepted for public hearing on October 25th. Application 21-33, applicant Ken Loizal, Route 193 LLC, and property owner, 49 Thompson Road, map 87, block 53, lot 8, zone Thompson Commercial Development District, TCDD, requesting a permit with site plan review for construction of an additional food and beverage service establishment, event barn, zoning regulations, Article 4E, Section 2-12.
I received a notice from the engineers, Janet Blanchett. She is going to be out of town today, this week on vacation, so she asked for this to be continued at the next meeting, October meeting, this application.
The engineers, on behalf of the applicant, have requested tabling this application to our October meeting.
Also move.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Blackmer and seconded by Mr. Rice to table application 21-33 to our October meeting. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, it is a yes to table, no to consider this evening. Mr. Poplawski.
Dave Paplowski, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Mike Rogo, yes. Randy Blackmore, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. Application 21-33 is tabled to October. Item 3, public hearing to continue the the August 23rd, 2021 recessed public hearing on the following application. Application 21-23, Town of Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission, 815 Riverside Drive, amendments to the Town of Thompson amended effective date June 21st, 2021. Zoning regulations with respect to the proposed revisions to sections Article 5A, Section 9 shooting ranges, and Article 7 definitions. We will consider this application in two parts. We will begin with with Article 5A, Section 9 shooting ranges and the associated definition that applies to shooting ranges. We will consider those together. We will begin the public hearing with that. In a moment, I will turn it over to the Director of Planning and Development to begin that portion. And then we will open the comments to the public. We have currently in front of us a list of some people who have indicated that they would like to speak. There is another list here on the platform if you haven't signed up. Due to the number of interested parties who do wish to speak, we will ask everyone, we will recognize anyone who wishes to speak just once. We will request that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. And we ask that you come to one of the two microphones to share your statement. A public hearing is meant to be a solicitation and collection of the comments and perspectives of the public, not necessarily a question and answer. But if there are some questions that you feel need to be answered and are not answered in the text, the Director of Planning and Development will do her best to respond to those. So please direct those comments to her. With the opening of this public hearing, I would like to begin by saying that in the next agenda item where we discuss the public hearing and possible action, it is my hope that the commission will vote to deny these regulations as written, and that will be my recommendation going forward. And with that, I turn it over to the Director of Planning and Development.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming out tonight. Obviously, this is an issue which is very important to people, and we want to be as clear and open with you as we can, and also hear as much from you as we can this evening. Just want to, yeah, whoever's got that phone, if you could turn your ringer off, that'd be great. Sounds like you got it. Just want to clarify that the intention of the Planning and Zoning Commission in considering these regulations was not and never was to infringe on or limit the use, ownership, or licensing of firearms. I know that there has been some misinformation floating around. Our intention was only to create a set of guidelines that would make a path for responsible property owners who wished to pursue the construction of a permanent shooting range on their property, to create a path for them to do so, which does not currently exist in our regulations. Now, having said that, what was clear at the August 23rd meeting was that our intentions aside, there was quite a bit that we need to go back and work on, and we can acknowledge some of those things up front. We know that the dimensional requirements that were suggested, although they were based on a certain logic, proved to be impractical when applied to this particular issue. So we know that up front. Another thing that came through at the August 23rd meeting was it was apparent that it was unclear to the public reading the suggested language what the difference was between a private and commercial shooting range. So if there is a lack of clarity in that text, that is obviously something that would need to be worked on. Another thing that we could definitely do a better job on, and we again want to acknowledge this here, to sort of put you at ease, is the difference, in fact, between somebody who, for example, in hunting season, just wants to sight in their rifle, do, some quick target shooting for something that is set up as a temporary use, and the permanent construction of a shooting range. So I hope that that clarifies some of, and the definition, which we also peeled out of Article 7, associated with shooting ranges. While our intention was good, which was to try to cover all the bases, in fact, in being so broad, it was probably impractical. So we just want to let you guys know that we have in fact heard you, and that as emotional as the issue has been, we want you to know that we do actually listen, and that is why we're here tonight. So we are actually grateful that you've shown up and that you have things to say. Now, in terms of an order of action here, again, the purpose of a public hearing is not question and answer. It is to hear the comments of the public. Having said that, again, as Joe indicated, if a question is posed that really does seem like it requires an answer here in the moment, I will do my best to reply to that. I might not have the replies to all of your questions, depending on what they are. We have a list of speakers that was presented to us early. I think there are probably more people who wish to speak than are on this list. What we'll do is we'll start and we'll go in order here. And then we'll let the tech folks bring in anybody who has comments on Zoom. And then it looks like there's another list down here. You may approach and put your name on that list, and then we'll call you in order there. And just as a closing, before we get to the public comment, although I cannot speak on behalf of the commission as an advisory staff member to the commission, I also am strongly recommending that this evening the commission votes to deny the suggested regulations as written, at which time essentially they'd be put aside. We would like to work on these with members of the community who are involved in recreational shooting and hunting, so that when we revisit this, we can do so knowing that we are following the interests of those within that community. So all that having been said, I'm just going to start with the list of proposed speakers in order here. Sean Harmon, come up to either of the microphones and do, just for the record, state your name and address.
Thank you. Sean Harmon, obviously speaking on behalf of Valley Springs Sportsman's Club, own land on Bull Hill Road up in Thompson. I currently serve as the Fish and Game Chairman of Valley Springs Sportsman's Club, and also a landowner in Thompson, where we and our family enjoy recreational activities in our land. We camp there, we hunt there, we shoot there. And the regulations that we saw that were brought forward were very disturbing, to say the least, because it was going to take that right away from us. It was very important. So Article 1, Section 2 of your intent of the zoning regulations, one of the first comments in there is to keep Thompson unique, right? And Thompson is unique. It's rural. It has a lot of farmland, has a lot of wooded land, has a lot of great citizens, as you can see, that's shown up tonight to speak their voice. And I hope that you hear us loud and clear, because like I said, the regulations that we see here were by far a town overreach. Even though the intentions might have been good, in our mind, we don't see the need for the regulations to exist at all. Connecticut has already enacted some of the strictest gun laws in the nation. The Connecticut state law now for shooting regulations and shooting ranges should abide here in Thompson, as it has for the last 150 years, without any problems. I know the argument the zoning board has put forth is if it's not listed in the regulations, it's technically not legal. That is the most unconstitutional statement I can even imagine ever written in any paperwork. Recreational activities such as playing baseball in your yard, putting a trampoline up, kids jumping up and down on it, right? So what's next? Shooting is a recreational activity. And if the zoning board here feels that that's something that could be regulated, what stops them from regulating any other recreational activity if a complaint is filed about a noisy birthday party? So in closing, I just want to say there's no justification for these shooting range regulations. They are unconstitutional, both here in Connecticut and in the United States of America. I respect. Do the elected zoning officials here tonight really think that the regulations you put forward are needed in the town of Thompson? I respectfully ask that you vote no on these proposed regulations, both now and don't reconsider them in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. I'll call up the next speaker in a second. And folks, just, we didn't say it up front, and we appreciate that this is super important to you guys and that you want to show your support. But it will help the order of action. Actually, if you withhold your applause until the end of the comment period is fine. Okay. Just trying to be respectful of all. All right, so the next person I have on the list here is Edmund Bono. And again, please step up to either of the two microphones and just for the record, state your name and your address.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
My name is Edmund Bono. Most folks in town know me as Doc Bono. It was the name I was given a long time ago by students, and it just stuck. Anyway, I've been a resident of Thompson since March 1984. I've been involved in the Conservation Commission back in the 80s. I've been a member of Valley Springs since 1983. And I was a teacher at the high school since 1979 to 2001. So I have a pretty good feel of Thompson as a community. I was really taken aback by this proposed regulation of shooting. It is completely out of step with the Thompson that I've known. The way it was pushed through, where you tried to sneak it through, and it just alarms me. The Thompson I knew was always open, and things were publicized, and open meetings were advertised well beforehand. But this is something that you should think about and look at for future, that you keep your constituency informed and open. There's no need to sneak around like a thief in the night. I've been a member of Valley Springs since 1983. I've held various offices there, both elected and appointed. I've been shooting, hunting, fishing in this town since '79 when I came back. And I don't know of any problem with shooting. I thought the clubs handled it very well. All the shooting that goes on at both the sportsmen's clubs, there are no problems. It's safe, it's regulated, it's self-regulated. We don't want to shoot each other. Bullets hurt. And I think that this proposal should be dropped. I'm astounded at the statement that if it's not regulated, it's illegal. As I said at the open meeting, you have no rules concerning oxygen. So I can't breathe on my property because it's not regulated? I bring that up because that's the premise on which you're operating. And it's a very false premise. And if the foundation is wrong, the building's going to be wrong. And I would like to close. I think that the state rules have worked very well. And if you have a problem with people asking you, how do I put a range in? Just say, refer to the state rules. They work very well. We're happy with them. So I ask you to not only defeat this, put it to rest, but also bury it. I would like to thank this commission for giving me the time and the position to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bono.
Thank you, Mr. Bono.
Next on the list, I do have, oh, look, he's already up. George ONeill.
All right, good evening. My name is George ONeill. I live at 122 Fabian Road, North Grovenordale. I'm speaking as a citizen and not as the chair of the Inland Wetlands Commission. So I have some insight on what you're doing and the challenges you encounter. And having observed a number of your meetings in recent months, I can say that there are certainly things that are very positive that this commission has done. So, and historically, I've worked with Tara on a number of items, and I know there's a lot of work that goes into this. So that's something to consider. I would also say that I'm a life member of Valley Springs Sportsman's Club, and my wife Sandra and I have lived in this town for over 20 years. I'm an avid sportsman. Hunting, fishing, all the items that are listed on your area scope are things that I do and have enjoyed. And one of the principal reasons we moved to this town 20 years ago was because of the fact that this is a rural town and we can enjoy these activities, these sporting activities. They're really important to us. I'm also a business owner. I established a company here in 2002. I have to say that after looking at some of the deliberations that have been posted on your website, I'm disappointed in that you didn't have enough information, I think, to make some informed decisions. The information you were provided, I believe, was inaccurate in many, many cases and perhaps ill-informed. And that perhaps is why you drew to the conclusion you did, which I think it's important that for that reason, if nothing else, you have an opportunity to reject this proposal. Actually, vote against it, both the shooting ranges and the definitions, because it's very disappointing in the process that I witnessed, which is in the public record, and it's out there for everyone to see on how this was, how you reached this conclusion. So for those reasons, I can only express my hope that the proposed shooting range ordinance be voted down as currently proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill.
Next on the list, I have Rick Poitras. And again, just state for the record your name and your address, please.
Yep, I'm Rick Poitras, and I'm a resident of Thompson, and I live at 210 Hill Road. I'm a landowner. I'm a retired semiconductor test development engineer. I'm also a hunter and a competitive tournament archery shooter. Okay. And I am not about to look or ask for permission from the town, okay, to hunt or to shoot my bow. Okay. I feel that what you're proposing is unconstitutional. Okay, it's unnecessary. in that it's trying to dismantle, the fundamental rights and the freedom in the land uses that we have here and that we have had for centuries. Okay? Along with that, I just really disapprove of this regulation. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next on my list, I have Henry Moses. And Henry, again, please state your name and address, and in your case, your affiliation.
Hello. I'm Henry Moses. I live in Brooklyn, Connecticut. And let me give you some my credentials so you understand where I'm coming from tonight. I'm a Hartford boy. I went to school in Hartford. I also went to school for biologist in Hiram Scott College in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. I finished my bachelor's in Bet Shan, Israel, working on the management of commercial fisheries. When I came back, I spent time at UConn in business management and contract negotiations. And that was my 35 years of corporate work, purchasing and corporate management. During that period of time, living in Brooklyn, Connecticut, for 42 years now, I became chairman of the Wetlands Commission. And I spent that position for 19 years. I went on to planning and zoning as a member, vice chairman and chairman, working with the regulations, revising them in a 10-year plan like you do, and making sure that the town's needs were met. The proposal you're doing tonight, you're working on, now that, let me back up for a second. Of all that I've done, I'm also a basic pistol instructor and a chief range safety officer. I've been doing this for many years. And I think I have a lot of students out here tonight. Thank you very much. I want to talk to you about planning and zoning a little bit. During a 10-year plan, or anytime you revise applications, you start out with a needs assessment. I hate that word. And that needs looks to the problems existing in town. And those needs are brought back to the planner and the commission. You prioritize them and you work in ways to meet those regulations that help the town solve their problems. So I did a little research on WINY because of your WINY, Tara. You mentioned that the complaints were not complaints, but inquiries for the safe use and construction of ranges. And there were no complaints. Well, if there's no complaints, why would you be building a regulation where since 1948 in Connecticut, they've had guidelines for the use and construction of ranges? And the safety of the use is quite extensive. There's a lot to be written and a lot of guidelines that have been shared. For the past 20 years, you haven't had any accidents. And that, my research with the state police, they've only had one accident in Putnam, Connecticut. And that was resolved. If you don't have a problem, don't go after new regulations. Go after the regulations that you found that are problems in this town. Now, I wrote a bunch of notes for myself because I'm getting old. But I want to talk to you about planning and zoning, and the intent. 1971, somewhere around there, the state started planning and zoning. Not all the towns accepted it. A lot of towns up until a few years ago didn't have it. But the intent of writing those regulations were to help land use officers in town segregate commercial, residential, agricultural. Well, they made a stipulation when it comes to public hearings. There's specific statutes that address when an item or agenda item goes to public hearing. The intent was to make sure nobody on planning and zoning could have personal opinions, emotions, and especially backroom agendas. So they specifically stated that the only way, if it goes to a public hearing and then gets closed after a certain period of time, planning and zoning has to base their decision on what was heard and only heard in the public hearing. And if any commission member was absent for any of that public hearing, they could not vote until they listened to all the testimony. Now they define testimony, expert testimony, like folks you've heard and you will hear, including residents, because they're experts in town. You can't accept anything that was said before or after the public hearing is closed. Therefore, you can only use the testimony given to you at the public hearings in order for you to make a decision. And I think you're hearing that you're going down the wrong road. Thirdly, I'd like to ask this, even though I'm not a resident, but I would appreciate, and I would ask this commission to deny this motion with prejudice and to go back to the guidelines set forth by the state that have worked for so many years so well. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
And just before I call the next person up, I just want to say thank you, Henry, for the time that you've taken to speak with me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you the past couple of weeks. Next person on the list here is Ray Williams. So Ray, just please come up to either one of the microphones and state your name and address.
Well, I'm not quite a speaker like the rest of you guys, but I'm going to tell you the way I feel about it. I'm Ray Williams. I've been a member at the Thompson Rod and Gun for 30 years. I've been a resident of Thompson since 1973. At the Rod and Gun, we've had a shooting range for 28 years. We've never had no safety issues whatsoever. You know, and you guys say that we're grandfathered in. We go ahead and do anything over 25% of to expand our business to try, you know, making our establishment better. Then we lose our grandfather clause. You know, it's just is not right. And, you know, what goes on, you know, people with private property, enough property to hunt and shoot legally, you guys should not be able to overreach and do anything over what the state mandates. It's an abuse of power, And there's a lot of people up there that you know it's an abuse of power. And then you guys keep bringing up them 6 little words inside our ordinance. It would be a lot easier to take them 6 little words out that says that if it's not in an ordinance, then it's not permitted. And it'd be a lot easier to take them 6 words out than to get all these people in an uproar over something that should not be done.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Next on this list here, I have Ray Bevis.
Hello, my name is Ray Bevis. I'm a resident of Woolgate, Connecticut, but I'm also the legislative coordinator for Connecticut Citizens Defense League. We're a grassroots organization that advocates for the right to bear arms in here in Connecticut. We have 41,000 members statewide and over 140 members in Thompson, Connecticut. Over the last couple of years, gun ownerships in Connecticut has increased dramatically. Pistol permit applications have doubled in the last 2 years, and the biggest demographic of those applications are actually women. But I want to say this proposal as written is an outright ban on shooting on one's own property. This proposal is an attempt to regulate constitutional rights in the long time tradition of target practice on your own property. This proposal as written will eliminate 99% of the properties here in Thompson, Connecticut. Property owners will not be able to enjoy one of the safest recreational activities known to us. And with this 100 or the 1,250 foot setback requirement makes the minimum of 115 to 150 acre minimum requirement, only allowing the 1% real estate rich of Thomaston to practice recreational target shooting on their own property. This is a blatant moral setback imposed by the will of this committee. There is no possible way the average Thompson landowner will enjoy their own property. And then if their application is granted, their name, address, signature, firearms license information, and their registered firearms will be kept on a list by the town. What happens if they don't have a firearms license? In Connecticut, you do not have to have a license to own a firearm. I don't know where that misconception came from. And then in Connecticut, only 5% of the firearms out there have to be registered firearms. This Planning and Zoning Committee's proposal is discouraging firearm owners from moving to your town. For the people that do have their carry permits, they passed federal background checks, state background checks, have fingerprints on file, taken hours of safety training, and now they're being discouraged and also spent hundreds of dollars to obtain that permit. Now they're being discouraged from buying property. And if they do want to move to your town, they have to find a lot that's 150 acres, apply for the permit. And you would think a town that doesn't have an in-town police force all the time, you would want to encourage law-abiding citizens from moving to your town, not discouraging them. This proposal is part mystical, part hunting regulations, goes against federal law and state law, and imposes the moral will of this committee onto others. This is not a pizza shop, bar, cafe you're trying to regulate. These activities involve constitutionally protected activities and rights. Towns are not allowed to create what amount of bans on these activities. We ask the committee at CCDL to reject this now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mr.
Bevis.
Bevis.
And I'm sorry I mispronounced your name at first. Martha, she's already up. Martha Dean.
Yes, I'm Attorney Martha Dean. I represent the Valley Springs Sportsman's Club, which has been organizing. I live in Avon, Connecticut. I would like to just give you a quick background because I have extensive experience representing shooting ranges around the country. I also teach for the NSSF and have taught for the NRA firearms classes on legal issues affecting shooting ranges. We're currently litigating a case in Michigan right now, which has just gone up to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, challenging a municipality's effective zoning ban. We consider this proposed regulation an effective ban on shooting beyond what already exists in the town of Thompson, and as such, it's unconstitutional. Now, this isn't just me speaking, but I'll just finish by giving you a little bit more background. I am on my Town Wetlands Commission, so I appreciate how difficult it is, what you're tasked with, and how difficult it is to be on a public commission. I also, many of you know, ran for Attorney General twice. I was my party's nominee in 2002 and 2010, so I'm familiar with large public policy issues. We have also litigated constitutional issues, and we litigate on behalf of shooting ranges throughout the country. We've also represented municipalities in the context of shooting ranges in litigation around the country. So here, the chief legal issues, without getting into a lot of detail that we see, and this is just with a preliminary look at these proposed regulations, but really we think that any proposed regulation would probably be flawed in these ways, but this particular regulation is particularly egregious in our view for many reasons. But not only are there procedural issues where it seems that there's insufficient or improper notice of the proposed regulation. We've heard from various residents in town that there may be a conflict of interest of a particular commissioner in bringing this issue forward. So if that's the case, certainly that should be made public, and that person should recuse themselves. We also see an issue with preemption. So there's federal preemption, there's state preemption, and there's a case out of East Hartford from 2020, making it very clear that Connecticut, the state of Connecticut, has occupied the field when it comes to firearms law. That's hunting, but in general, in firearms law, the state of Connecticut has done that, we believe, and that this type of regulation would be struck down because of that on the preemption basis. We also have federal environmental laws, and those laws preempt any effort by this town to try to regulate the use of firearms and to regulate on environmental grounds. The town of Thompson doesn't need to make laws that exist already at the state and federal level exist. For example, if a factory comes into town, you don't have to tell them that they need to comply with the existing laws. And this regulation does a lot of that. In addition, we see constitutional issues, not just with the Second Amendment, but also with landowner rights. So those are vested property rights that are protected by the Fifth Amendment. So there are many more issues. There are issues in this regulation of violating the right to privacy and the right to assemble, and there's a U.S. Supreme Court case that protects concerning the NAACP, which has been used to protect shooting ranges from having to disclose who their members are, who shoots at their facilities. That's an absolute non-starter for this regulation to try to require that kind of information. Now, it's not just me saying that this is unconstitutional. Most people in the country understood that the right to practice with firearms was part of the Second Amendment for many years, but it hadn't really been litigated until more recently as developers move out into rural communities. They try to buy up land around shooting ranges. They try to control the agenda in meetings like this behind the scenes for various reasons. And so these cases have been litigated more recently. There's a case out of Chicago that went up twice to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, establishing that, yes, part of the bundle of rights protected by the Second Amendment includes the right to gain proficiency and maintain proficiency with a firearm. Now, a firearm is not a paintball gun, and it's not a nail gun, and it's not a bow and arrow. Firearms have a very specific definition. This regulation conflates all of these different things that throw projectiles. And they're not firearms. They shouldn't be regulated as firearms and lumped together. You already have regulations that cover recreational uses. You have the ability to regulate commercial uses, any commercial use. If someone wants a commercial range, it's just another commercial use. You have the ability to regulate them. You have the ability to implement noise laws, and that's definitely within your jurisdiction. And existing ranges are protected by state statute from that type of local regulation. We are very concerned about the statement that existing ranges are protected, that they are as grandfathered uses, because we're litigating cases in Granby, Massachusetts right now. We just won part of it, but in a range that's been there for over 70 years. And, they've been successful and more successful in recent years. They've grown somewhat. A developer's bought land around that range and trying to put 500 houses in right around the range and shut the range down, and is using other landowners who want to sell to put pressure on the town. So we litigate these kinds of cases. We see what's going on. And to think that these clubs are going to be protected as grandfathered uses we believe is just not true. They can expect litigation in the future with this type of regulation in place. But there's a recent case out of the Third Circuit Court of Appeals out of Pennsylvania. This is a federal court that makes it very clear that you can't come up with solutions and then search for problems. And this to me is a regulation in search of a problem. That case makes it very clear that these long-standing protected uses are protected. That when you go to gain proficiency with a firearm, you don't have to join a club. You don't have to join a range. You can practice on your own land if you can do it safely. And there's a book that's several inches thick put out by the NRA, for example, and none of those range design guidelines are law, because every range is different. Every property is different. To think that you need 10 acres, that makes it safe, that's nonsensical. Some 10-acre properties can never be made safe without certain features. Other properties are far smaller. Even state police ranges are on much smaller properties. You don't need 10 acres to shoot safely, nor do you need a formal range. So there are many, the basic guidelines that all shooters learn to know your target and what's beyond, and to protect, to make sure that projectiles don't leave your property boundary. There are many ways to do that. You don't need a formal range to do that, and it's not required by law. So there are far simpler and more effective ways of addressing some of your concerns. When I looked at the town regulations, the existing regulations, without even considering this new regulation, you don't even allow recreational uses in your town, from what I can tell, except on certain farms. Hunting's not allowed in your town, from what I can tell, except on certain farms. So there are already issues with this type of zoning law in your town, where very broad categories that exist in other towns just don't exist in your zoning regs. And therefore, much of what people do currently is illegal if you take the position that anything that's not specified is not allowed. And then finally, I just wanted to say that the process that I viewed when I looked at the special meeting on June 22nd, I have to say, having looked at many public meetings in many states and here in Connecticut over the years, I've really never seen anything like it. And I'm not going to say anything specific about any individuals, but I was really shocked by the level of unprofessionalism, I guess I would say, by the entire group of people in that meeting. And I just want to say very quickly, Mr. Bevis said pointed out a few of these, but if this commission thought it was getting expert advice of some sort, I was just stunned. NSSF in Newtown is not a recreational sports advocacy organization. It's a group of manufacturers of firearms. They don't set the standards for private ranges. They don't set the standards for recreational ranges. The standards for military ranges and law enforcement ranges and sports shooting ranges and home ranges, these are all very different. I was stunned by the terminology. Backdrops don't exist. I mean, maybe in theater, but not in sports shooting. Backstops do. A pistol permit is not required in the home, even though you were told it is. all firearms are not required to be licensed, even though you were told they are. Not all shooters are required to be licensed, even though you heard they were. The ideas of posting signs and having bullet catchment devices. I mean, these are things that very well organized, very, very well funded ranges can't afford and aren't required to do, and they operate safely without these things. And yet here you are proposing this for, backyard target shooting. So I was shocked by the reliance on such poor information and the yuck sort of sound of this meeting, including, right down to Sunday and whether shooting's allowed on Sundays. Of course, shooting's allowed on Sundays in Connecticut. We represent many ranges and they're open on Sundays. So really try to go through a process and think about it in a much more serious way about how to get good information at the outset and how to involve the community. You've heard that from some of the earlier speakers, and we just ask on behalf of the club and others who are organized with it that you reject this with prejudice, these regulations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Attorney Bevis.
Thank you, Attorney Bevis. The next person on the list here, and I apologize if I mispronounce your last name, is David Cornoyer. And just state your name and address, please.
My name is David Connolly. I live at number 21 Mountain View Landing in Danielson, Connecticut. Of course, I'm not a resident of this town. I am a retired state trooper. I've worked in this town since 1973 among my various patrol areas. I'm also a life member of Valley Springs. I am a certified NRA firearms instructor and a certified safety range officer at Valley Springs. I've been involved with firearms since I've been 10 years old, never had an accident. I look at this thing, and that's, I think, probably the nicest thing I can say about it, this thing that you guys propose and seem to try and get it slid under the carpet here. And it's outrageous. It infringes on every constitutional right that we have. I cannot speak with the same, expertise as the people that came before me, but what really is at stake here is all of our rights, every one of us, all of our rights. But more than that, what is lost here? What is lost, and I, as an individual, have served on several committees. I'm on several boards in Killingly. What is lost, I think, is the community's trust in you guys. How do you fix it? How do you fix it? What are the ulterior motives? Those are questions that will probably come up, when your community, all these people that are here, start looking, who's going to come into office, who's going to be on what committee. I'm not a political activist, but I was, it was like a punch in the guts when I saw the video of that very unprofessional meeting. I serve on a board of directors of a fire department, of a non-charity bookstore. I'm the president of a condo association. We try and conduct orderly, thought-out meetings and follow Robert's Rules of Orders. That was a debacle. That was horrendous. So, as you see, I don't have notes. I speak off the cuff and from my heart. But you guys have got a lot of work to do to gain back the trust of your community. I hope you can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Knoyer.
So the last person I have on this sheet is Larry Grow, and then we'll try to go to Zoom comments. And this commission has not done a hybrid meeting yet, so I'm not 100% sure how we're going to work that. But I'm going to also get the folks who signed up over there. So Larry, go ahead and state your name and address while I get that sheet.
State your name and address. Oh. My name is Larry Grow, 183 Wager Road, resident of Thompson. I'm not an elected official right at the moment for those, and I'm not running for office either. Just so everybody knows that. But I am involved in Thompson's government. I have been for 20 plus years. As previous first selectman, I was on the board of selectmen for 10 years. I started out on planning and zoning, and I served on the board of finance as well. But coming in here today, I was thinking of where this came from. So I heard through the grapevine that there were some complaints. I heard through the grapevine that a few residents came in and asked if they could put a private gun range at their home. And that's where this regulation came from. And it sparked my curiosity. And I did call up one of the planning and zoning members and asked him last month, and I'm sorry that I didn't attend that meeting. But I asked a few questions. I was working at the time, so I would have left work and went to the meeting if I would have known it was going to be as contentious as it was. And what I heard at 7 o'clock the following morning. When you mention guns, I guess people come out. I've been at contentious meetings before. As first selectman, I talked about a few issues that sparked the interest of the residents. And I got to say that as long as I've been involved, I have never had this many people come to a meeting. So that speaks for itself. I think the most people I had was around 150 to 200. And I know that there's more here because this seat's 600. I just wanted to make a few comments. I read through the regulations. I don't agree with them. My father was a member of the Thompson Rod and Gun Club while I was growing up. The first gun that I shot myself was a BB gun, and I saw in the regulations, and what I interpret, that I want to be able to shoot a BB gun on my own property. And I understand what you said, Tara, at the beginning of the meeting, that it was unreasonable. But after reading them, and I realized, and then talking with a few folks, that I would need 111 acres to shoot a BB gun or a bow and arrow, for that matter. I was just taken back. I own guns myself, and I'd like to practice on my own property. I would suggest that, and I did hear the chairman say that he was going to suggest to the commission to vote this down tonight, and I applaud you on that. And I think that everybody here behind me would agree with that statement. We heard a few of the other folks say before me, and I absolutely agree, and I had every intentions on saying that not only to vote it down tonight, but to drop the regulation and never revisit it again. When I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we regulated a lot of things, and I was involved in rewriting the regulations just as you are, and I know a lot of time and effort goes into it as you're doing it and as you're working through it, and the countless hours that you do your research on your own, not just in the meetings, bringing information in. And so I realize that, and I get that, and I know that a lot of work goes into it. But I was always under the assumption that it was a lot to regulate. My time on the commission was to regulate business and to farming and which is a business, to those types of regulations. And I just thought that, personally, I thought that this was going a little bit further than that myself. This is from my own point of view. And I get it, that it says in your regulations that if it's not in there, it's not allowed. However, when I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, my
a lot of the things that we would bring up was to put regulations in place, not so they could do it, is so that we could regulate what they were doing, because if it wasn't in the regulations, there have been lawsuits in the past where people were able to do certain things, certain businesses in certain areas, if it wasn't in the regulations. So that this is where I'm coming from, where I think it should be just stricken from the record, never revisited, let the people practice on their own property, because there's a lot of, who abides by the law? I'm a retired corrections officer. I saw a lot of bad people in my 20 years in corrections. They're criminals. They break the law. The law-abiding citizen is the one that's going to go out and get the pistol permit. The law-abiding citizen is the one that's going to go out and get the hunting license. The law-abiding citizen is going to want to protect themselves and carry a gun and go through all the regulations. So as you're regulating, these are all the law-abiding citizens that are going to have to follow whatever is regulated and whatever laws come into play, and they follow the law and as they're regulated, and the new laws that go by the state statute of Connecticut and the federal laws. So there are already laws in place for shooting ranges and how we can do it, and we have to shoot in a safe manner already, and I think that's what should be followed, and this should never be revisited again. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
All right, so we're going to take a pause from the in-person comment to see if there's any Zoom comment, and I believe the IT staff is handling that. They have put a message in the chat that if anybody in the Zoom audience would like to make a comment, to use the raise your hand function. So let's just give that a minute, and then we'll go back to this list of the remaining folks who have asked to speak. And it looks like we have one. Tracy, is that something that you're going to pipe through? I'm still unclear on how this actually works.
Looks like we will recognize Holly Sullivan.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Joe. I see.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
If you guys could just, so we can hear the person speaking on Zoom, just kind of keep it down for just a second. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. This is Holly Sullivan. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you okay. Just state your address as well, please.
My name is Holly Sullivan, and I am the president of the Connecticut Citizens Defense League. I am not a resident of your town. However, I have been contacted by many residents of your town, and on behalf of the state's largest Second Amendment advocacy group, I am here to relay the concerns that they have. I'm a resident of Southbury, Connecticut, but again, on behalf, I speak on behalf of the residents of the members of CCDL. I simply want to raise the concern that many have brought to me that your town recently took the position that this was an area where the Second Amendment would be respected. And not but a month later, this is by far the most overreaching proposal that has been seen in this state in more years than our organization can count. We have combated ordinances in other towns that are far less egregious in infringing on the rights of the residents of this state. And this proposal goes far and beyond even areas that are typically much more leaning towards other philosophies. And this ordinance is perhaps the most far-reaching that we have ever seen. And I respectfully ask that you listen very carefully to the words that are going to be coming out of the members' mouths as they express the concerns that they have and the extent to which this will violate their rights. Thank you for your time.
If there's any additional member of the Zoom audience who wishes to address the commission, just use the raise your hand function. We'll hold it for a second. And if we get another one, we'll hear that. Otherwise, we'll go back to the live comment.
And thank you, Ms. Sullivan. While we're waiting to see if anyone from Zoom wants to comment, I will read, we received 6 comments through the town's website, and I will read all of those into the town record. The first is from Matthew Reynolds, subject shooting practice proposal. The message is, I oppose this new proposal as a citizen and taxpayer in the town of Thompson. The second item, Cricket Reynolds, subject to target shooting zoning change. I, as a taxpayer and resident of Thompson, oppose this proposal. Number 3, Matthew Desjardins, proposed target shooting regulation. I have been a resident of Thompson for 11 years. I am a professional in the manufacturing industry, currently general manager of local business, which has resided in Connecticut for over 120 years. I am an Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts of America, a law-abiding citizen and avid hunter. This regulation threatens my way of life and the few freedoms I am able to enjoy in this region. I oppose the proposed target shooting zoning regulation and hope you will terminate all attempts to diminish citizens' Second Amendment rights. Thank you in advance for your support in terminating this proposed regulation. David M. Benoit, new target shooting regulations. I am opposed to this new proposal. The town just passed something in support of the Second Amendment. However, I feel this new proposal is doing the exact opposite. How is a responsible citizen supposed to safely use their firearm without proper practice and use? How are they supposed to get that practice and use when you're taking away the ability for them to do so on their property or friend's property? Item number 5, Gary Pelletier, subject shooting range. Dear Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission, we are residents of Thompson and wish to voice our opposition against the new target and shooting regulations. Sincerely, Gary and Darlene Pelletier. And item 6 from Michael Robert Pelletier, Planning and Zoning Regulations. I oppose this proposal.
Thank you for reading those, Mr. Chairman. I see no further requests to make, oh, no, we just got one. Chad Austin, we'll recognize Chad Austin, and Mr. Austin, please state your address as well.
Hold on. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All righty. So Chad Austin, 61 Aquatic Town Farm Road, Thompson, Connecticut. I would like to say I strongly disagree with what y'all are trying to do. I've grown up in this town. I've lived here my entire life. We enjoy our outdoor activities, and the amount of land that y'all are looking to have people need to facilitate a range is preposterous in my mind. My father lives in town. He has over 5 times the amount of land I do. And in my 2-acre lot that I own, I am much safer to shoot my handgun at my house than I would be at his house. And he has over 10 acres of land. I'm surrounded by woods. My neighbors that own the land, I've talked to them. There are no issues. They are appropriate backstops in place that would stop more bullets than you would ever need to worry about. And I just feel that what y'all are trying to do is not right and should really be just discouraged and never brought up again. And that is all.
Thank you, Mr. Austin.
We'll give it another minute to see if there's anyone else in the Zoom audience, since we had live comment, and then if there is not, we will go back to live comment. We'll just give it a minute. I think it doesn't look like we're going to get another Zoom comment, so we'll go back to live comment now. And if we do get any more, we'll go back to that. So the next person on the list here, I have Dave Clark. If Dave Clark would like to come up to one of the microphones.
Thank you. Dave Clark, 105 Elm Road, Thompson. NRA Life member, and I vote. Also a former student of Mr. Moses. My opening line has already been taken, but it's worth repeating. This is a solution looking for a problem. So I just got comments on several of the things. C1, you've all got copies of the regulations. I'm not going to read that. It's vague on exactly what a private shooting range is. If someone goes out a couple of times a year to sight their gun in prior to hunting season, does that constitute a range? Or must a range be a permanent setup? And how much use makes it the difference between somebody temporarily target shooting and having a range? C2, a person with, this is on, it can only happen in the rural, residential, or agricultural district. So a person that has 25 acres of wooded land in the business district, a designation that the town, that was assigned by the town for which the landowner had no input, is forbidden from shooting on this property, even though they would be allowed to hunt there. C3, state hunting regulations state that you cannot fire a firearm closer to 500 feet from a dwelling or building housing animals or containing flammable substances that is not owned by the shooter. In other words, you can shoot outside your own barn full of cows if coyotes are molesting those cows. There is no such 1/4 mile stipulation to be away from roads or other property lines. Why are these regulations more strict than state hunting rules? Again, a landowner can hunt, but not target practice on their own land according to these regulations. C4, this is in line with state hunting laws, but the state exempts the rule if the hunter owns the buildings. Again, why is the town more strict than the state? There is no problem. Why do you have a solution? C5, what defines, I love this one. What defines a designated public recreation area? If a person owns 200 acres of land, but part of that land touches a golf course, does that mean they cannot shoot even on the part of their land furthest away from that golf course? Even if it's a 1/4 mile away? Again, according to state hunting regulations, they would not be able to hunt on this land. They would be able to hunt on this land. They just couldn't shoot a paper target. C6, again, more restricted than state hunting regulations. A landowner does not need to post the land with this information. If they are hunting, why must it be posted for target shooting? What is the penalty if they don't post, and who's going to police and enforce that? General provisions which also apply to private landowners. 1, landowner needs a special permit to shoot on their own land, but not to hunt. 2, more town overreach on what a landowner can and cannot do on the property. Again, hunting is allowed on private property, but to sight your gun in, you need to designate this area, obtain a permit, etc. There is no definition on what a backdrop should consist of, or what a bullet containment device should be, and how do we know if we've met the requirements? Who decides if what we have is adequate or not? 3, the minimum lot size. Where did that number come from? Is there such a limit for hunting? The rules for target shooting should not be more strict than the rules for hunting. 4, the guidelines appear to be directed toward public shooting ranges. It's not clear if it relates to private ranges. Those are the state guidelines. 5, can I just list all my property? It says we want the lot number, we want the this, we want. Can I just say, I own all this property, it's all a shooting range? Or not? Number 6, not all firearms are required to be registered by Connecticut. Is the town here wanting all firearms registered? Registered firearms should already be listed with the town. Since the selectmen had to sign off on my gun permit, one would assume the town has that information. If a friend from out of state comes to visit, are they prohibited from shooting my gun on my property because I do not have a copy of their license? Can I target shoot with my hunting age child who does not yet have their own license? 7, the inspections, announced inspections or surprise inspections. In addition to the clear encroachment on the Second Amendment, is the town now also going after the 4th, 5th, and 10th Amendments? Who will be doing these inspections? And why is there no link provided
in this regulations to these EPA publications that we need to adhere to. Exploding targets. Are clay pigeons considered exploding? When I hit one, full disclosure, I don't hit a whole lot of them. Special permit for shooting range shall not be granted to any person convicted of any felony offense. Newsflash. Felons are prohibited from owning, possessing, touching a firearm. Thank you for your time.
Mark.
The next person we have on the list, and I think is Noah, it's either Elcott or Elliott. I'm not sure which it is. Thank you.
Noah Elliott, County Home Road. I am a 7th generation Thompson resident and the proud owner of firearms that have been in my family for 5 generations. It is our history, our heritage, our right to pass those things down to our children and grandchildren. It is our constitutional rights and our very freedom that you are threatening and trying to strip from us. And quite plainly, those things are not yours to take. This has weakened and divided our town, and it cannot be allowed to continue. I oppose.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
Since there's some more folks adding their names, if there's anybody else in the Zoom audience who'd like to comment, please raise your hand and we'll call on you now. Otherwise, we'll wait till these 2 folks have their names on the list. And if you'd be so kind as to hand that up to me when you're done. That was Noah Elliott, right? Yeah. The next person I have on the list here, folks, if you just sort of let us get through this. Diane Jameson. If you're still here, you can come down to the mic and just state your address as well for the record.
Hi, yes. My name's Diane Jameson. I live at 490 Sunset Hill Road, North Grosvenor, Connecticut. I have some written statement, but I'm going to amend it somewhat. I've certainly learned a lot this evening. But I think I'm the lone voice in the wilderness. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what it's like for me, because I live in an area, have 22 acres of land. Most of it's forest. We like to walk on our land. And we have a lot of people target shooting around us. So most of this is probably not directed at you folks, but maybe at the audience. And I just want you to know that for me, I'm scared to walk on my land. Sorry for the shaky voice, but I'm a little scared to walk because I think most people who use guns are trained and know what they're doing, but I can't be guaranteed. My dog is scared of gunshots. I know a lot of dogs are, so she spends a lot of time scared in the house, looking like haunted. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be allowed to shoot. I'm just saying there are other people, there are people that get affected or animals that get affected. The other thing is that we like to hang out on our farmer's porch, and I'm getting older, I'm retired, I like to take a nap there in the afternoon. It's a very common time for people to be target practicing. So my thing with the planning and zoning thing was I was going to say, can I have a few afternoons where I could sit on my porch and not have to worry about hearing people shooting? So that, I mean, I get that there's no way to really, I don't want you to regulate it. I understand. So I want the people who use guns to understand that you can affect other people. As a mental health therapist for years, I can also speak for people who have PTSD, combat veterans, police officers who may have been in shooting incidents, survivors of gun violence and mass shootings, that kind of thing. So gunshots can trigger them. Does that mean you shouldn't shoot? No. I'm just saying, you know, people are affected by our behaviors sometimes. So I don't have answers to that. I mean, I had some suggestions. Having heard all this, I don't even know if they'd work. I would love if there were more business ranges open, that they be indoor ranges. I don't know if people can use silencers. Somebody told me that isn't even legal. I don't know what the rules are. I'm just saying. I don't know what that applause is for. So I'm just saying, when you're shooting, know that you are sometimes affecting other people, and I appreciate the right. And I can imagine it may have been difficult for you guys to hear all this, and you've certainly been professional this evening. I wasn't at the last meeting, so I don't know. But, you know, I think it's a positive that you're hearing all the feedback. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jameson.
Next on the list, I have, and again, I apologize if I mispronounce your last name. Is it Koistunen?
Ed Koistunen, 490 Sunset Hill Road. That's my wife. So anyhow, I don't go along with necessarily what you're doing here, but I do understand, like with my wife, we'll sit on our porch trying to be quiet, and we'll have, I don't know, several hours, 4, 5 hours sometimes of target practicing, because we have more than one neighbor who target practices. And it is disjointing to have the, you know, every so often, you know, bang, bang, bang. Sometimes rapid fire, sometimes it is more, somebody has a very large gun, a 50 cal, I don't know, or a cannon or something, I don't know what it is. Also, the idea of having hours that people would restrict their time of shooting. We've had people shooting out somewhere. I'm not sure who is it, because it's very hard to triangulate where this is coming from. But we've had people shooting 1, 2 o'clock in the morning going from 11 on to 2 o'clock. I mean, I don't think most people here do that. I don't think that's not what I grew up with. When I grew up, I had my father teach me how to shoot. He was a game warden. We were very clear on how, gun safety and how to do that, and what would be right. I don't think people generally shoot at night in those times. The one complaint we made, that was one time when a person was shooting, and it was just constant, and it was maybe some of it wasn't rounds, because there was such percussion to it, it actually shook the house. So that is one complaint that I did make. I know that you want to hear about what a complaint was made. I've never made a complaint on somebody shooting on their property, however, because I feel like they have the right to shoot on their property. But I wish that people would take into consideration the noise that is created there. Now, for this whole thing to come up, we kind of laughed. We said, that's not ever going to pass. Why on earth did they why did this ever come up? Because, how would you ever enforce this? I already know that you can't enforce it, because the only people that would, who have the ranges that are registered, you'd have people with registered ranges, and then other people are just going to shoot anyhow. I really, and you'll never find them. I mean, how do you find where a person is, where they're shooting? It's, if you have acreage and lots of acreage, we have, most of the people around us have 10 acres or more. So, it's like, I don't know which ones are shooting, which ones aren't. I've talked to some of my neighbors. I've told them, could you hold it down a little bit? Could you limit your time? I think that's more of a, maybe it's more of neighbor to neighbor issues. So anyhow, that's what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson.
Next, we have Sarah White. Sarah White is still here.
.308 East Thompson Road. And I can relate to Mr. Elliott with multiple generations in town. There are a number of families here who were settlers of Thompson. And I have a pretty good rounded background with firearms, both from my family farm, from the military, and from private tactical training. I was born and raised in Thompson. I haven't always lived here. I lived a long time in the Washington, D.C. area. I've learned a bit about public policy and the dynamics of it, the consequences of it, the motivation of it. And I think one of the things that needs to be disclosed here is that given the magnitude of this proposal, there really should be a full explanation of the source and why this came to be. I suspect what is the dynamic? What is behind this? And where is it in the best interests of the town? One of the things that struck me, sometimes I get discouraged by some of the things in Thompson, the way it's changed. It's changed dramatically in the last 60, 70 years. But this is really impressive and encouraging. And you can judge the wealth of the town by the grand list and many things. But I'd have to say that here's the wealth of the town. And this is something that should not be discouraged. The folks here, probably 99.9% of them are totally considerate and responsible. And everyone should consider them a gift to one another. There may come a time when you're going to be very grateful that you have folks like us here. And you don't ever want to do anything to discourage that and suppress that. This is an act of suppression. I believe that last Friday on WINY, the phrase, there was a flurry of complaints. And it would seem that if there were legitimate complaints that you would look at, who were the complaints against? Were they truly irresponsible people? And that should be dealt with the correct authorities. And if they were complaints because they're people that do not understand the use of firearms or aren't familiar with the people that are using them, then you shouldn't just seek to limit at large those who are probably very, very responsible. I've had people move in near me who moved in from cities and other areas, and they just hear them and they have no idea that people who are using the firearms have decades of experience, that there is a backstop, that they identify, they know exactly where that bullet is going, and they would never in a million years seek to harm anyone or unduly disturb anyone. But we need to have a full accounting of where this came from and why. Was it a member that was elected? Was it a staff member? the language seems to be quite not something that you normally find in your average town. Where did this come from? But beyond that, it has been mentioned that this would be voted down. But I think we need to clarify before we all leave tonight and leave this large crowd wondering, will it be voted down to not raise its head again, or is it going to be voted down for tonight and come back after the first of the year? Because I think that it was said on Friday that it was going to be delayed. But we shouldn't even be debating points of a regulation because it shouldn't even exist to begin with. It's not about debating points of regulation. It shouldn't even happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White.
Next up, we have Robert Mann.
My name's Robert Mann. I live at 15 Meadow Drive. I was never involved with town politics till like 2013. 2013 was when the state made the assault weapons ban, and I had to register firearms I already owned. When I was an adult, me and my father didn't spend a lot of time together, so we decided we were going to take gun classes together. We took a handgun class at Brooklyn Trading Post, and we both got our carry permits, and I've been carrying ever since. But that's the real driver behind me getting involved with the town, the RTC, anything in town at all. Never went to a single town meeting before. It was the 2013, me joining CCDL and getting involved. Just today was the first time I actually saw the Zoom video of June 22nd of you guys making this regulation. I can't believe some of the things that come out. I mean, I'm from Thompson. I've lived here most of my whole life. People that say they're educated in firearms aren't, in general. When you make a regulation in a zoning board, you should have the education. If you're going to regulate babysitting, you should know all about babysitting. If you're going to regulate gravel mining, you should know all about gravel mining. There's a lot of educated people on this board, and I'm not saying this to knock anybody in general. I'm just saying that when you're going to make a decision on something this draconian and this crazy, you really need to know about what you're speaking of. You need to know, what a gun is, what a semi-automatic is, what an automatic is, how much a bullet can go through, how much. I mean, I don't even want this regulation at all. I just want to say that because I don't see an issue in this town. I don't remember anybody getting shot. I don't remember anybody's side of their house getting shot from target ranges too close. I don't know where any of that ever happened in this town. People are pretty responsible. When you have a neighbor you don't get along with or something happens, you go to the neighbor. I had a neighbor I'll be honest, I had a neighbor just the other day, 8:15 at night, all of a sudden I hear a leaf blower. My wife just went to bed. I say to him, hey, what's going on? He goes, well, I just bought this new meat slicer. I found the best way to dry it off is with the leaf blower. So he ran it for 10 minutes and that was the end of it. But you don't say anything. You don't say anything. I'm not gonna stop at that. Just recently I had a confrontation with somebody else. I did something wrong, or he thought so. So he approached me. It's the way he approached people too. You approach somebody, you approach your neighbor, and you have an issue with them, you don't come to them and start yelling at them. You say, listen, this is my issue. This is why. I didn't have an issue with a leaf blower. It wasn't a problem. It was just that. But if I would have gone over there at 8:15 at night and go, what the hell are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you, he would have given it right back to me. He's my neighbor. He knows. He would have thrown it right back at me. We would have never got along again. We would have been fighting for months, and that's how I am. But I didn't do that. I said, hey, what was going on with the leaf blower last night? And that was it. He explained it. I'm like, hey, it makes sense to me. It was 5 minutes. What's the big deal, right? But that's how you have to address things in a small town. We all have to get along. We don't always have to get along, but we should work through things. If you don't like something, you have a problem with something, you go to each other and you try to work it out. That's how it works. So I hope you vote this down tonight and it doesn't get revisited. Things do get revisited sometimes and people don't know about them. The only reason why people know about things is when they pay attention. And as you all know, I pay attention a lot. But anyway, thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. I mean, it takes a lot to go to these meetings and I understand that. Thank you for everybody for coming and speaking. And not, when I say everybody, I mean even the person that didn't like the noise and they're afraid. Everybody, you know, they came and they spoke their mind. It took a lot of strength for that woman to come up here and shake and speak. And I commend you for it, you know, but thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Mann.
I have Mike Darcy up next. Is Mike still here?
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. I think I have a unique perspective to speak on this. I don't ordinarily like to get into my professional background, but I think it's germane. I'm a 29-year homeowner in the town of Thompson, raised my family here. My son graduated from Turtle Lot High School. I'm also a recently retired 32-year member of the Connecticut State Police. I retired as a I was a trooper at Troop D. I was the lieutenant who commanded Troop D, and I was the major who was in charge of all of Eastern Connecticut. So I have a great deal of knowledge about criminal incidents in the town of Thompson, having lived here and having worked here professionally. I'm also a proud member of the Thompson Rod and Gun Club, and I can say that the Thompson Rod and Gun Club and Valley Springs, I know, are both great neighbors in this town, and both organizations go to great lengths to promote firearm safety. As far as I'm concerned, this proposal is not necessary. I'm disappointed that other people have stolen my line, that this is a solution in search of a problem. Obviously, I didn't make that up, but I thought that I did. I was going to take credit for it. But the point I want to make clear, and using my professional background, is current state laws are more than sufficient to address the issue of shooting on one's property, and particularly properly addressing some incidents on property that can go awry. I don't know of any incidents in the 29 years I've lived in this town and all the years I policed this town. I don't personally know of any incidents in which homes were struck or persons were struck as a result of target shooting on one's property. That doesn't mean that it hasn't happened, but I think I would know about them if they had ever occurred. But more importantly, I have faith in Troop D in the current state laws on the books to enforce those. If you're shooting on your property and you strike your neighbor's house, you're going to be arrested, and you should be. I don't think there's anybody in the room that disagrees with that. I would add, I'd like to echo what the gentleman before me did say. I wish those two people from Sunset Hill Road were still here. I do think it took great courage for them to get up and give their unique perspective. And as he said, it's about being a neighbor. And if there's anybody here tonight that is neighbors of those people or knows their neighbors, maybe you should have a neighborly talk with them and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do it at this time of night, because the bottom line is just because you have the right to do something doesn't make it the right thing to do. So we do have to be good neighbors, but this proposal is unnecessary. I grew up in a suburb just outside of Boston, so I know what it's like to live in the city. But I've been here for over 3 decades, and I appreciate the rural culture of this town, and I don't want to see it changed by this unnecessary proposal. I repeat, we have sufficient state laws in effect to address shooting on one's property. I also echo what Ray Williams said earlier. I am concerned about how this proposal, if passed, could impact the Thompson Rod and Gun Club, and certainly Valley Springs, I'm sure, shares these concerns. The ability for either of those organizations to expand their physical structure at a later date and lose their grandfather clause, I think that's problematic. So again, I would, the commission has already suggested that they're going to deny this proposal. I certainly hope that that occurs, but again, I hope that it does not resurface at a later date. This is, as you can see, I don't think you've ever had this, you haven't had this many people in this room for a dance recital, let alone a town meeting. Obviously, this is a very passionate issue in this town. There's not a need for this, and let's put it to rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darcy.
Next, I have Mary Ann Zay. I heard you say it, so wherever you are, you can come down to the microphone now, please.
My name's Mary Ann Zay. I live at 20 Lakeside Drive. I just moved here in December to move in with my folks who are 95 and 96 so that they can live their lives at home for the rest of their life. My mother reads the reminder, And she said to me, she's 95, and she said, how come I'm finding out about this meeting by an ad in the paper taken out by a resident? Why don't we have any information coming to us? What is going on? She asked me, at her behest, I am here. She said, secondly, she said, have these people lost their mind? You need to go down there and make sure our Second Amendment rights, our basic constitutional rights are never, ever taken away from us by anyone. And that is coming from a woman and my father and myself. We have never owned firearms. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. It is our constitutional right, and you cannot take it from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zeri.
Gavin Paquette.
Gavin Paquette, 36 Terrace Drive, lifelong resident. I just want to thank all the townspeople coming out today and all the commission members and the Thompson Rod and Gun and Valley Springs for working together and getting our points across. And my other thing I would like to bring up is that last year was the pandemic 2020, which everybody remembers, and that this commission actually changed all the bylaws in the town. And this is just one facet of these bylaws. So you guys might want to attend more meetings, be more vocal and active in your community. And I would also like to state that I would like this to be shut down and not revisited again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paquette.
I think this nickname is Cricket Reynolds. Is that right? Cricket Reynolds?
Cricket Reynolds, 29 Cordis Road. I just want to say that first and foremost, like others, we found out about this not by your board, not by anything else, but word of mouth. And to me, that's not okay. In this position or any other position that you should be holding, we voted you guys in. We have a right to know when these meetings are coming, what the meetings are about, and for us to be able to come and voice our own opinions. Had posts not been made on Facebook and everywhere else, a lot of people wouldn't have even known. And that is awful. Not only that, but you guys pushing this, trying to push this regulation, that doesn't just take from us, but it takes from our children. I want this shut down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds.
This is Nicola, I'm just going to apologize straight up. Chanowski? Oh, here she comes.
Nicola Krasinowski, 49 Mountain Hill Road. So I wrote my name down on there before some of the other people got up. I don't own a gun. I've never owned a gun. I don't shoot. My neighbors do. They are the most respectful people. They ask sometimes when they know we're having events, they ask if it's okay. This is not okay to take that right away from them. I don't want to use it. I don't want a part of it. I don't like them. My kids want to be educated, and I'm willing to let my 4-year-old go learn from my neighbor. Why? Because he's educated, and because he has a proper range, and because he knows better than I do how to train that child. Don't take that away from my child, even though their parents may not agree with it. It's a decision they want. I'm going to let them do it. It's a decision these people want. You need to let them have it. So please vote this down, never speak of it again, and listen to those in the community that don't own guns. Because yes, I don't like the noise sometimes, and it is hard on the animals, and I agree with that 100%, but it isn't 24/7. Most of these people are respectful, and they do stop at a certain time. So please allow them that ability to be and continue to be working with their neighbors on these issues and not have our town regulate it for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzinowski.
Heidi?
Hi, try to fix this a little bit. Nadine Williams, 131 Spicer Road. And I'm going to stand this way a little bit because I want to talk to my fellow citizens as well as the commission tonight. Firstly, I'd like to say that I echo this man over here from the Rod and Gun Club about getting involved, because I want to let everybody know that these regulations have been in play for over a year. And I do believe that I was probably the only private citizen that attended any of the rewrite of the regulations in the committee meetings, because I wanted to know what was going on. And I was really shocked to see that no one from the community was there. I think it was myself, the commission members, and the conservation commissioner at that time that we've lost. But there was no one from the community. And what I really want to say here is that, you know, we really need to get involved. And I think the commissioners want people to get involved because they don't really know what we're thinking. And it's really important that we do. And also, I would like to say that I am political, and I think this is partly political, and I do want to know what the origin of this is. I want to know where it comes from, and I echo Sally White. I think that we should not have to leave here tonight until we know that this is not going to be resurfaced, because I clearly heard that, you know, that the recommendation is to shoot it down tonight. But where do we go from here? And I implore everybody to pay attention to what's going on here. And most importantly, pay attention to who your candidates are, because we're coming up to the election. Know what you're voting for. Know what each one of these commissioners, whether they're for this or not. You really need to know, because it matters. You know, get rid of the name recognition, okay, in this town. We really need to know what our commissioners are doing and what they think and what they stand for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
David Ford.
I'm David Ford, 200 Porter Plain Road. I remember not too long ago the conversation that Thompson had about making it better. So there's a couple things that intrigued me. Was we were talking about bringing in businesses. We were talking about bringing in outside revenue sources. And I thought, that could be interesting. Not sure how it'll turn out. And then it intrigues me, because how I found out about this meeting was not by a town announcement. It was actually by a friend of mine shooting a text message over and asking him how things were going, to have him say that he is planning on fixing his house up to sell it. And then when I got a little further into it to find out that the restrictions that were trying to be opposed, and as they said in the beginning, a lot of them aren't reasonable. They're not. And it actually intrigues me to this point. I went to a Charlton Home Day, and one of the recreations they had was chainsaws. Chainsaws can be dangerous, but used correctly, they're very effective. And what they did was they lined up a log, and each one took their powerful saws that they spent their time and money, and they came up and they cut a piece of that off. Well, the regulations that are imposed right now could eliminate that from happening in the town of Thompson. That's a problem. We need to think a lot bigger than that. It's one thing for us to come forward and say there's a problem, but there's not a problem. So not having a problem doesn't require a solution to it. Keep in mind that this is just a step. This is a step of infringement of our constitutional rights. Connecticut has some of the strictest gun laws. And I ask you as a citizen to let Connecticut's laws stand and push this down and never to resurface again.
Thank you, Mr. Ford.
So the last person we have on the list tonight is Mike LaJeunesse, and then I think we'll move to what you all came here for, but let's let Mike get up and talk.
Hi, I'm Mike LaJeunesse. I'm a lifetime member of Valley Springs. My dad and uncle would bring me to Valley Springs in the 1940s, and I'm not aware of any problems that have occurred since then. The members are extremely safety responsible, and these regulations are not needed. So I highly recommend that you vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LaJeunesse.
We'll let this gentleman as a late entry, and then again, I think we'll move to the action you've all been waiting for. And you can leave that list there on the stage and just let people know who you are on the mic. Thank you.
So my name is Jeff Owens. I live on 12 Broads Lane, Thompson. I grew up here my entire life. I do have a pistol permit, which I got not too long ago. I don't feel that these are quite the way to go about doing this. We all have rights. Everyone in this room is safer with us than us not having a pistol. We do go through training and stuff like that to be able to safely shoot our firearms. I don't know what anyone would do without these places to shoot, because I know if I didn't have practice doing it, then there would be a bigger problem than what you have now. It's not everyone can afford to be able to go to private clubs and stuff like that to be able to do this. So people that do have ranges at their houses, that do let people come there and actually shoot and practice and sight their firearms in, you know, we're all grateful for them. So that's pretty much it, but I'm against it. Thank you
very much.
If the commission would allow me to speak. Amy St. Ange, 139 Riverside Drive, also first selectman here in town. I just want to let everybody know how proud I am at the turnout tonight. Because let me just say, this is America. This is what America's about. And the only thing that I want to say is, as a commission, I think at this point, you know what you need to do. And I trust that you're going to do the right thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morales.
So just before the chairman formally closes the public hearing, I'd like to thank you all as well for coming out tonight. As Nadine observed, and she and I have had these conversations many times, we do actually welcome public input. We really do want to hear what you guys have to say. As it turns out, we don't often get a lot of input. This is an occasion when we have, and we have definitely heard what you have to say. And I think you'll be generally pleased at the outcome that you have tonight, although I cannot speak on behalf of the commission.
Thank you. Okay, so at this point, we still do have the definitions not related to the shooting range to discuss. What I would suggest to the commission is that we recess the public hearing for the purpose of taking action on the section that we've discussed, Article 5A, Section 9, and then reconvene the public hearing for those definitions which are not related to shooting range.
So just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, 5A.
Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this is to get to the vote on the shooting range language sooner. Okay. Okay,
I think perhaps you misunderstand what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is get to the action that you have, that you.
can I have order, please? Can we have order, please? Can we have order, please?
What the chairman is attempting to do is close the public hearing so that the commission can vote on the item that you came to hear the vote for. That is the action that we're taking. No, I'm sorry, the recess is to consider the additional non-shooting range related definitions which were part of the prior public hearing.
And it's not really, if it's easy, we'll just conclude it. Okay, let's continue then, please. We'll continue the public
We can
hearing
proceed to the definitions
with
if you prefer.
section Article 7 definitions.
Should all be in there. Okay, so we have, as a part of that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 additional definitions which are unrelated to shooting ranges, which are under consideration. But it seems like you prefer that we take everything together right now, which we're happy to do that. Okay. So I will read them as we go. So this is additions and edits to Article 7 definitions. Accessory dwelling unit, ADU, an independent, detached, and self-contained housing building on a residential lot that is subordinate in size to the primary dwelling. The provisions for ADUs in the town are found in Article 4, Section 4(1) of these regulations. Agriculture, ancillary, entertainment-based activities. Non-agricultural offerings commonly used as incidental components of on-farm direct marketing activities that are accessory to and serve to increase the direct market sales of the agricultural output of a farm. Such activities are designed to attract customers to a farm by enhancing the experience of purchasing agricultural products. Examples of such activities include, but are not limited to, horseback riding, lessons or rentals, live music performances, weddings, and business meetings. Fence, a freestanding structure intended for division no more than 7 feet tall while maintaining maintenance space to owner's property line on either side. Food and beverage service establishment, any facility where food and/or beverages are sold and served to the public as a principal or accessory use. Examples of food and beverage service establishments include, but are not limited to, restaurants, banquet halls, event facilities, diners, cafes, coffee houses, bars, taverns. Breweries, microbreweries, and craft distilleries are not included in this definition as they are subject to separate provisions under these regulations. Food trucks are not included in this definition, but are considered a temporary use under the jurisdiction of the fire marshal. Outdoor dining, also outdoor seating area. A term used in these regulations in reference to an accessory use to a food and beverage service establishment. The provisions for outdoor dining are found in Article 5A, Section 8 of these regulations. Paddocks includes pastures and pens. A contiguous owned or leased area used for confining of livestock, which excludes areas occupied by dwelling units, non-agricultural buildings, on-site sewage disposal systems, and meets general criteria as described in the provisions of Article 4A, Section 4D. Animal shelters are permitted within the confined area. Here is the definition for shooting range, which we are recommending be considered separately from the other definitions. Shooting range, also firing range or range, an area designed and operated primarily for persons aged 16 or older using or discharging rifles, shotguns, pistols, revolvers, black powder weapons, archery, air rifles, paintball guns, or any other air-powered projectiles, or making use of silhouette targets, skeet ranges, trap ranges, or any other similar sport shooting elements. Storage, commercial, passive, a structure or facility used for the purpose of storing goods or equipment for a business. Passive storage does not include storage rental facilities or any other business aspect which is available to the general public. So those are the complete items up for consideration this evening. What we have recommended is that we consider the suggestions for Article 5A, Section 9, with the definition that you just heard together as one item to be voted on, and then the remaining definitions separately.
I move the public hearing be closed. Seconded by Mr. Blackmer. Yes vote will close the public hearing. A no vote will leave it open. Mr. Blackmer.
Randolph Blackmer, yes. John Rice, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
Mike Krugel, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Dave Poplawski, yes.
Joseph Purdy Brown, yes. The public hearing is closed. Item 4, discuss public hearing and possible action. I move a vote for the denial or approval of Article 5A, Section 9, shooting ranges, and the definition from Article 7 for shooting range.
I'll second.
Motion made by the chair, seconded by Mr. Santos. Any discussion on the motion? I will ask all commissioners to vote either deny Article, the revisions to Article 5A, Section 9, and the definition of shooting range from Section 7, or approve to approve. So the votes are deny or approve. Any questions from the commission? Mr. Blackmer.
Question.
Yes.
The deny is just the shooting range?
Shooting range and the definition of shooting range.
Deny.
Mr. Blackmer votes deny.
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 John Rice. Deny.
Deny.
Dave Poplawski, denied.
Joseph Purdy Brown, deny. The amendments to Article 5A, Section 9, shooting ranges, and the definition of shooting range in Article 7 are denied. I move approval of the remaining definitions in Article 7.
I so motion.
Motion made by Mr. Santos,
Second vote.
seconded by Mr. Rice. Any discussion on those definitions as read? Hearing none, and for the sake of consistency, a deny vote will deny the adoption of those amendments. An approve vote will approve the adoption of those amendments as read. Mr. Blackmer.
Randy Blackmer, approve. John Rice, approve.
Brian Santos, approve.
Mike Krugel, approve.
Alvin Hill, approved.
Dave Poplawski, approve.
Joseph Purdy Brown, approve. The definitions from Article 7, as read with the exception of the definition of shooting range, are adopted. Item 5, approve minutes. 5A, August 23rd, 2021, regular meeting minutes.
So, do we gotta take any action on the public hearing? Or should we just let them tell you, we're gonna take any action? That's what we just did. Just definition. Definition for part of the public hearing.
Yeah, the only two remaining items from that public, we approved everything except for Article 5A, Section 9, and the definitions last month. And you know what, I am actually going to, ladies and gentlemen, while you're leaving, if you could do so quietly, please, so we can hear ourselves up here, please. Thank you. Actually, Yeah. I apologize. We're going to go back to that vote on the definitions. That adoption needs to be given an effective date,
The effective date would be the 22nd.
the 22nd of October. So that vote is an invalid vote. So we will re-vote. I'm actually going to move that we accept the definitions with an effective date of October 22nd and amend the effective date of the amendments that we accepted last month to the same date of October 22nd.
And I second that.
Does that not work, Cindy?
The amendments that you passed last month, all those amendments, that's already been legally posted, and we set a date for September 30th.
You're right.
Yeah, that's right.
I apologize. Thank you, Cindy.
You're right.
Okay.
So again, I will move to accept the definitions with an effective date of October 22nd. And again, this does not include the definition of shooting range.
I saw motion or second.
Mr. Santos moves acceptance of the definitions with an effective date of October 22nd. Mr. Rice seconds the motion. And deny the definitions, approve to approve the definitions. Mr. Blackmer.
Move to approve. John Rice approved.
Brian Santos approved.
Dave Poplawski approved.
Mike Vogel, yes. Approved.
Alvin Hill approved.
The definitions, with the exception of the shooting range definition, were approved unanimously with an effective date of October 22nd. Item 5A, approve minutes of the August 23rd, 2021 regular meeting. I, for one, would like to thank Gloria for a thorough job on a lengthy meeting. Thank you, Gloria.
Yeah, you said good job.
We on August 23rd, so
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular minutes of August 23, 2021.
Mr. Rice moves the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 23rd, 2021.
I second.
Mr. Blackmer seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes will approve the minutes, a no will not approve the minutes. Mr. Poplawski.
Dave Poplawski, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Mike Vogel, yes.
Randy Blackmer, yes. John Rice, yes.
Brian Santos, yes.
Joseph Furdy Brown,
He was
yes.
going before me the whole time.
Item 5B, August 25th, 2021, subcommittee meeting minutes. I will move.
That's the 25th, right, Joe?
The 25th, yes.
I'll motion to approve.
Motion has been made by Mr. Santos to approve the minutes of the August 25th, 2021 subcommittee meeting,
I'll second that.
seconded by Mr. Poplawski. Any discussion on the motion? Yes to approve the minutes, no to fail to approve the minutes, or abstention. Mr. Blackmer.
Randy Blackmer abstained, wasn't present.
Mr. Rice.
John Rice abstained, not present.
Brian Santos, yes.
Dave Paplowski, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Mike Krogel abstain.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. That is 4 votes in favor, 3 abstentions. The minutes are approved. Item 5C, September 8th, 2021, subcommittee meeting minutes.
Thank you. Thank you.
The only one was Joe and Alvin.
Joe and Alvin.
I move the approval of the minutes of the September 8th, 2021 subcommittee meeting.
Alvin, you got a second.
Mr. Hill, as the only,
You and just Joe.
as the only other member
have to
present here
second.
tonight who was present at that meeting, will you second my motion to approve?
September
these?
8th, I approve.
Motion made by the chair, seconded by Mr. Hill to approve the minutes of the September 8th, 2021 subcommittee meeting. Yes to approve, no to deny, abstain, if that is your choice. Mr. Poplawski,
Dave Paplowski abstained.
Mr. Hill,
Yes, Alvin Hill.
Mr. Krogel,
Mike Krogel abstain.
Mr. Blackmer,
Randy Blackmer abstained. John Rice abstained,
Brian
not
San-
present.
Brian Santos abstain, not present.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. With 2 abstentions, with 5 abstentions and 2 yes votes, the minutes of the September 8th subcommittee meeting are approved. Item 6, applications received after the agenda posted. Cindy, I'm assuming there were none?
None.
Thank you. Items 7, citizens' comments.
Come on
Mr.
up to the
Guerrero.
mic, Larry.
Thank you, Larry Grohm, 183 Wager Road. Not sure if you require that at this point in your meeting, but some commissions do, some don't, so I just figured I'd get it out.
We
of the way.
appreciate it.
Thank you all for denying the moving forward with the gun range in your regulations. As you heard a lot of people say here tonight, that they were asking it not to be revisited, including myself, for the commission not to revisit it. We didn't hear anything of that, and I know that you cannot vote not to revisit it ever again for eternity. I mean, that's just, if a whole new board in 10 years from now is here, they could do whatever the commission wants at that point. So we don't expect that. But one thing that I do want to know, if I can get the answer from you, Mr. Chairman, will you be revisiting it in January or not? Is that what the plan is? Or was the plan tonight to not revisit it as you just voted?
Would you like me to respond to that, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly, thank you.
Larry, I think when we first brought it up, the intention was to revisit. And, there were a lot of people came into my office who were opposed to those regulations, who indicated that they would be interested in working on them with us. I think, I can't say yes or no on behalf of the commission, but I certainly think it's something that we would have to seriously consider if it's where we would want to go, given the response that we've had. So as you say, we can't make promises for future iterations of the commission. As of this moment, I would say we are likely to let it lie where it is, which does not mean that I wouldn't be reaching out to some of those people for their input.
Yep,
Just
I'm not asking for you to tell me that it's for eternity, but I was looking for the near future, as you just heard me say, January.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
we've heard what people have said, and, the purpose of the various amendments and rewrites to the regulations is to make them stronger. You know, if the general public does not perceive that that makes it stronger, you know, it's not necessarily worth bringing up, so.
Yeah, and as I said in my earlier comments during the public hearing, I have never seen this many people come out. And then I have just one thing that I did not say at that point. I did speak to many people that couldn't be here tonight too, that wanted to come. But they felt that from hearing that there was going to be a couple hundred people here, they figured that voice would be heard through them too. So just to let the commission members know that there were other people here that, I mean, there are other people out there that wanted to be here for tonight's meeting as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Sean Brissett, Lowell Davis Road. I think the easiest thing would be getting rid of that language that says essentially, hey, if we haven't thought of it yet, you can't do it. I don't understand why that language is in our regulations. I was stunned when I heard it. That was more stunning than any of these regulations regarding shooting. I sit here and think, so if I think of something and you haven't thought of it yet, I can't do it on my property? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So at the very least, that should come out of the regulations, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brissett.
Either way, Nadine, they both work.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity for another question here. Tyra, could you please define what you meant by you're unlikely to let it lie? I'd like to understand that.
No, well, if I said it that way, I didn't mean to. I think we're unlikely to revisit it.
Okay, you said,
what I meant to
okay.
say.
All right, thank you.
It's been a long night, Nadine.
I understand. I just needed that clarity. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
That way upstairs.
Any other citizens' comments?
I don't know what's down that hallway.
Thank you. Hearing none. Item 8, reports of officers and staff. 8A, the Director of Planning and Development.
I don't have anything particular this evening, other than to encourage folks to come out to the community events we've got coming up this weekend. Community Day, of course, on Saturday, and the unveiling and dedication of the new interpretive signs at Trainwreck Park on Sunday. Weather looks good, and we'd like to see as many people out for those things as we had out today. So hope to see you there.
Thank you. And thank you. I'm sorry, it's just a little difficult to hear up here. So if you could help us out, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. 8B, the ZEO memo. Anything you want to draw our attention to?
No, everything is in our memo.
Thank you.
Joe, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rice.
I have a question for Cindy. What's the certificate CO for Madison at the last page?
The last, it's a certificate. I get the reports from the building office. She sends them to me and I just copy and paste what she sends. So I say I need the certificate, building.
Wasn't there some kind of limit on the amount of houses?
Just a minute, hold on, I'm sorry. So the question from John was about the certificate of occupancy for Madison Ave Investments. And Cindy's response was that she receives this from the builder's office, building office, and puts it in the report. And John, I believe, has a follow-up question that he's asking right now.
All I know.
Yeah, but she gets the information from the building, but she has to approve it, right?
All I know, John, is I've only signed 3 building permits from Madison Ave. So if you have 3 building permits, the first 3 building permits on my reports from the certificate of occupancy are the only 3 building permits I have ever signed from, certificate of occupancy I have ever signed from the building office. And I will go upstairs and check to see if I signed this certificate of occupancy.
Yeah, but Cindy, it's in your report.
What was that?
It's in your report.
Yes, it's in my report because it comes from the building office.
Yeah.
I don't create that report,
So
John.
did you approve this or not?
Did I approve what?
This certificate of occupancy?
I have no idea.
4827.
I have no idea because I asked her for reports of building permits and certificate of occupancy, and there is absolutely no time in my office to go upstairs and double check that my signatures are all on all those reports. What I do know about the certificate of occupancy for Madison Ave is I was told to only sign 3. And that is all I have ever signed is 3 certificates of occupancy for Madison Ave, regardless of what report says that comes from the building office. And I'm actually just following a pattern that was instituted before I came into the job 4 years ago. When I looked at the previous memos from the previous CEO, this is what was on the memos, reports of building certificates and certificates of occupancy. So I just said, well, this is what they want for reports every month. And so I have tried my best to do that for you.
Right, okay, well, can I suggest that you go and when you have a minute?
Sure.
Just to check to see if you sign that?
I
and-
certainly
And
will.
why there be an issue? Because I thought we only allowed.
I've only signed 3 building certificates, and if you have on your previous memos, my previous memos, the first 3 Madison Avenue building certificates are the only ones I have signed.
I know, I'm not questioning, now
Yeah.
I'm questioning why.
Okay,
Is that this keep on issuing them and
that's their department. That's not my, that's their department.
All
You have
right.
to go and ask them.
all right.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Thank you, Cindy. Item 8C, Town of Thompson Budget Report from August 2021. Any questions on that?
The only expenditure was for advertising for a legal notice, $147 as indicated on this report.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Item 9, correspondence. Any questions on the correspondence received since our last meeting?
The only comment I have, Joe, if you get a chance to read the NECOG courtesy notice for the planning and zoning from the town of Woodstock, a lot of pretty good information in there, the regulations that they passed. We might want to look at that at some point.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that, Mr. Rice. Any other questions or comments? Item 10, signing of Mylar. None? There seems to be none. Item 11, old business, Brickyard Road bonding.
No report.
Thank you, Madam CEO. Item 12, new business. No new business. Item,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just one point. Guys, the doodle poll for the latest subdivision regulations thing is out, and I should have mentioned this under my report. One of those dates is the 11th of October. That is Columbus Day. We're not permitted to meet on federal holidays, so strike that one. And if you haven't replied yet, please do so we can set those next dates.
thank you. Item 13, commissioners' comments.
Joe?
I got Mr. Santos and then Mr. Poplawski.
I just wanted to say thank you for all the crowd for coming out tonight. They're very well thought out comments and statements. I definitely learned a lot about gun regulation tonight and people's opinion about that, but not only relating to gun and shooting ranges, but the tactic about any further amendments that things need to be well thought out and the right people brought to the table. So I just wanted to thank the crowd for that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Mr. Poplawski, only because I was looking that way first.
No, that's fine. I'll echo what Brian just said. Thank you all for coming. Pass the word on to everyone. It was, well-attended meeting. Valued everyone's opinions. Thank you to the attorneys who came in, took the time to travel up here or, Zoom in. And it was very informative. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poplawski. Any other commissioners' comments? Mr. Krogel?
Mr. Chairman, I would also like to say thank you to everyone that came out tonight. I do really wish that people would attend our meetings more and look online and everywhere else that we have things posted. It's just nice to see people coming out, and I hope we can see more of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krogel. Any other commissioners' comments? I will add my thanks to everyone who came out and also to the IT staff who supported us this evening, as well as the other individuals there who were able to make this possible for us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you to Officer Tucker and the security staff in the school as well.
Yes, thank you. Item 14, our next meeting, Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting, October 25th, 2021, 7 p.m. will be home in the Merrill Sinay Community Room of Thompson Town Hall, 815 Riverside Drive, North Groveland, ONeill, Connecticut, 06255. Item 15.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Blackmer, and I'm going to give the second to Mr. Santos.
Yeah, thanks.
This meeting is adjourned at 9:32 p.m. Thank you very much.